Today we have a deeply personal and inspiring conversation with Stephanie Suttle, who shares her incredible journey navigating narcolepsy, chronic stress, and hormone balance. Stephanie's story is a powerful example of self-advocacy, resilience, and the transformative impact of personalized wellness care. Join us as she sits down with Dr. Andrew Wong to discuss how functional medicine, real food, and lifestyle changes helped her to reclaim her health and take control of her own wellness journey. Let's dive right in.
Welcome, Stephanie, to our podcast. We're so glad to have you on the Path to Wellness podcast, and so grateful for you to be here today.
Well, thanks for asking me. I'm really honored to be part of this.
So, as we were just discussing before we started recording, you are our first patient on this podcast. We're actually really excited about it. So you are a pioneer. You are a groundbreaking trailblazer, I would say.
You did say that, and I said, or guinea pig. So, but no, I'm really excited about this. And when you asked me when I was in for my appointment, I was absolutely just really honored that you thought that I had some interesting things to say and that I might help with the functional integrative health message, because I think it is so important.
It's important to get it out there, but I think we want to talk about, and I know listeners want to hear about Stephanie, about you a little bit more, a little bit about your life, and maybe a little bit about your background, kind of what's most passionate for you in terms of health and wellness, maybe some of your health goals, even health journey, and that may span a lot of things, all the way back to kind of more personal things earlier in life too.
Well, I was thinking about, what did I want to say? How did I, when we were talking, kind of what my journey was, and it's interesting because it's been the same, yet it's changed often. I think is mostly our lives are, we are who we are, but as different things happen, hopefully we adapt or amend. And I mean, I grew up with a dad who we had horses and was very much into just health and wellness and eating good food and being outside and exercising and not really messing around with the body and going to doctors. And so I'm glad I had that background. But what I was thinking about was, I remember back in the 70s when Tab and all the diet foods came out. And it was a big deal. And my mom had her Tab all the time drinking it. And my dad was very much how bad those things were. Because even though you were taking out the sugars and the fats and the other things that they were being replaced with chemicals and junk. And that real food is what was really good for our bodies. And it was just not the right thing to do, which I'm thrilled that, I'll be 60 in a couple of weeks, March 15th. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And so I'm glad that way back, I was probably, 7 maybe when I heard that. And that stuck with me. And then I was in a car accident in my early 20s. And I wasn't a big deal, but I had neck pain, and there was funny, it was like carbonation sound that would come up through my neck and my spine. And I went to a couple of doctors. They couldn't figure anything out, and there was pain. And then I had a neighbor doctor who had me see an osteopath. And that was the first time Eastern medicine was suggested, and he intertwined Eastern and Western medication, and I started doing acupuncture. And that was at the time when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which at that time was called fibromyositis, and it really didn't have a name. And when I talked to other doctors or other people, that's when I was told it was all in my head and it's not real. And I learned that no, it is real. I know what I'm feeling, and I know what's helping. And I know the acupuncture, even though many people would say, oh, it's not real, it's fake science, I knew it was helping. And that's another situation where I it was being reinforced that I needed to trust myself, trust my body, listen to myself. And it was okay to go outside the regular boxes of the medical field because there were other things that worked. So that was that. And I'm, you know, other things that have happened. I've got narcolepsy, and that's been a challenge. And that's what you and I are working on a lot to try to figure out, to try to help get me back to healthy so that I can feel, you know, like I used to. So that's kind of my story. Lots of stories to tell, but that's kind of how I got into the two really major things that I can think of that made me think of how I had to advocate for myself and understand myself, my body, and do a lot of research on my own.
And thank you, Stephanie. It doesn't really seem groundbreaking, but it is, because the conventional medical system is all about obeying. And, you know, we're part of the medical system too, but, you know, we're trying to, in an integrative world, say that, you know, it's all about being a partner with our patients. And, you know, people should, I think, know their own body, take charge of their own body, be the CEO of their own health, just like you mentioned.
You have to be. You have to be, because there's no way that, well, first of all, you have to find a doctor like I found you, who is open to listening and who does want a partner. And because there's no other way to do it. I don't expect you to know everything about me, my body, what I do, where I go, my past experiences, what things are difficult for me, or what triggers things. I mean, with my narcolepsy, when I wasn't diagnosed until my 40s, late 40s maybe. And I think I've always had it, but I don't think it was always a significant issue until I went through it was a tough marriage and a tough divorce. And the stress and the chronic stress and CPTSD really, really threw my body out. And I think really triggered a lot of the things to start falling apart. And so it was when I was suggested that I saw a doctor and got a sleep study, and then found out about the narcolepsy. And I thought, oh my gosh, I like to do road trips and drive my kids on vacation and visit family, and to and from college. My kids weren't in college then, but I knew at some point they would be. And I thought, oh my gosh, what can I not drive anymore? And then I realized that actually I became healthier, or a safer driver and a safer human being, once I had the diagnosis, because then I could say, okay, what do I need to learn about it? What do I need to do? And there weren't a lot of people that actually didn't feel like a lot of people knew much. So that's also where my research and joining Facebook pages and other support groups helped, because I learned a lot through there. But one thing I learned was through trial and error was, a lot of people think that sugar helps keep you awake. And for me, sugar and carbohydrates knock me right out. I go to sleep. So I learned that if I ate fats and protein or fasted, I could stay awake, and I was fine. So now when I do road trips, I make sure I have only fat and protein and no sugar and carbs, and I'm fine. But I didn't have any, at that time, there weren't any doctors, and there weren't a lot of people who could tell me that. So that's where the trial and error, but also a lot of doctors I would see would tell me, well, I need to take these medications, or I need to take these stimulants, which I have, and it can be helpful, but weren't very open to listening to what I was saying was helpful and seemed to help. They seemed to say, well, that doesn't seem to make sense, or I don't know why. And it was dismissive. And it was frustrating, because I was trying to heal myself and help myself. And I didn't feel like I really had a lot of support, even with, family and friends who didn't understand. So yeah, it's my long version of saying, yeah, it's really important to find someone who is open-minded and wants to listen and wants to partner.
Honored for you to be part of our clinic. And I've even learned so much from you, from all the things from how to take care of horses and a lot of the wellness tips that I'd love for you to share here with all of our listeners, Stephanie. Want to kind of get back to kind of a deep dive, because one of the things that we know, and really a deep dive into getting to know a little bit more about you, because you mentioned your dad a lot in your health journey. I know you have kids, so maybe starting with your dad a bit first. What is it that you love about your dad, and what did he teach you in terms of health and wellness? How has that impacted your life?
Well, my dad, I was the kid who, my dad he passed away in 2002, so he's gone and I miss him tremendously. But I was the kid who was in the summer, had a hat on, zinc oxide, and a t-shirt to go swimming when all the other kids were running around in bathing suits. He was like, we need to protect your skin. You need to burn. And he just seemed to be always on, really knowledgeable, and he read voraciously. He talked to vets a lot, and he just seemed to be about, he was an athlete, health and exercising and eating right, big on protein, big on kids having protein and not the junk food. And it really was introduced me to a lot of different foods. I got, like my kids, I think it's great. They did not grow up on nuggets and kids' meals. We'd go out to a restaurant, I'd order food that I thought was appropriate for them to eat also. But they ate everything. They ate all the same things I ate. And I was also raised that way, where I ate all different types of foods. And some I liked, some I didn't like. But it was that really open-mindedness and that open outlook on the world, and going outside and walking in the woods or walking. I was always barefoot. I don't know. My dad, we were just outside and active and eating well all the time. And he just really had a major impact. That was smart, really smart.
And clearly that's rubbed off on you with your health curiosity and wellness. Tell us a little bit more about your kids. How old are they? And what are they doing now? Yeah.
To go back with my dad also, he definitely challenged norms, and he was not afraid to question things and to really critically think and say, I don't know, that doesn't seem to make sense. And so I'm really thrilled that I was given that it's okay to question and think and look in other directions and ask questions. And as far as my kids, oh my gosh, they are, I've got a son who's 26 and a daughter who's 23. And I cannot believe that they're that old, because I'm not. But my son just moved to Florida last March. Oh my gosh, it's going to be almost a year that he moved away. I can't believe it. Boy, that happened. That went quick. And he's loving it. I miss him. And my daughter is here. She's working with a vet. And my daughter's also narcoleptic, and she's a little worse off than I am. So that's a struggle. I feel bad for her, because she seems to be more impacted by it at an earlier age than I was. But she's working on it, and we're trying to get her to eat a little healthier and be she works hard, and try to get her to exercise a little bit more. But she helps with the horses and is outside. So she's doing well. But I feel bad for her, because any chronic illness, when there is no cure, at least not at this point, it's a different path than what I had hoped for her. But I know she'll do well. Excuse me. She'll do well. You figure it out. You have to adapt. We all have something. So it's just finding how to work it.
Getting support. I wanted to mention another group of creatures that you mentioned already that are also some of your love. So you mentioned your dad, your kids.
Horses by any chance?
Horses by any chance.
They have saved my life many, many times. They've nearly killed me a few times, but they have definitely saved me. They get me up and outside every day, a couple times a day, rain or shine, freezing weather, raining weather, horrible hot weather. But their hearts, literally and physically, are huge. And there's such a healing presence being around them that it's incredible. I wish more people had the opportunity to be around them. And they make you to be safe. Because even the nicest horse, the nicest dog, the nicest cat, anything can hurt you. And especially if they're 1,000 pounds, they can, even if they don't mean to, if things happen, they get startled, you can get hurt. So it's imperative that when I'm with them, that I am absolutely in the moment. I can't be thinking of other things. It's my form of meditation is really what it is. And it keeps me present and in the moment and aware of my surroundings. And it makes me remain calm because they react off of my emotions. I think I told you one story where I'd gone to court, divorce, and I was in a not great mood. Things were not going well, and I was driving out to the barn to go take care of the horses. And I was just in my head. Here, I think I'm fine. I'm walking over to the pasture where they are, and usually, it's nice. They're glad to see me. I'm glad to see them. And I'm over there, and they are just acting like a bunch of jerks. They are just, pushing and just, it's just not comfortable. And I'm like, what is the problem? I've had a tough day. You're not making this any easier. I came out. You're supposed to be making me feel better. And then I realized I had walked in with such negative energy and chaos that's what they picked up on. And so the minute I was back in the moment and said, okay, breathe. I'm kind of the leader. I need to relax and let them know it's okay. And some reacted right away and others kind of looked at me side-eyed and like, we'll give you a minute, make sure it's okay. But, which they did. Sorry, the sun is getting bright. But once I took that deep breath and calmed myself and got back in the moment and focused on them and being outside, and it was a gorgeous day and all the good things that were happening in my life, it was so much better. They were better, I was better, and it was back to calm and back to neutral. And it was really nice. It was really impactful that day. I tell that story quite often because it's one, how horses will mirror you, which is really a beautiful lesson that they give you, and a reminder that you really have to be in the moment and be present to be healthy.
And like you said, I mean, I think all animals, like you said, they're in the moment, and that's something we can really learn from. It's just that horses are 1,000 pounds. You got to be in that moment times 1,000 to
Yes.
make sure that you're safe. No, that's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Getting to kind of some of the kind of health and wellness challenges that you mentioned, whether it's narcolepsy or other kind of health challenges. What's been the best kind of things you've found to be really helpful in kind of almost like maybe defining moments in your health and wellness journey that, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners, that's really, really moved the needle for you?
Going back to what I put in my body, the way I fuel my body. I know if I want to be productive, and with my cognition, which is oftentimes a struggle, it's the fats and the protein are imperative, and not overeating. Fat. There will be times where I wake up and I don't eat till maybe the afternoon, and it's fine. I'm not hungry, but I also know that if I have something too early in the morning, now my body's focusing on. It feels like it's focusing on digesting instead of the things I needed. So it's just food, what we put into our body. Also, if with my narcolepsy, if I sit too long, here we're talking and I'm engaged, and so I can go for hours and hours and hours, and I'm good at talking, so that's also not a problem. But if I sit and doing nothing, my body will start thinking, oh, we're resting. Maybe it's time for a nap. I think I'll fall asleep. So it's in those moments I realize, as much as I would like to stay sitting and maybe fall asleep, take a nap, and sometimes I do. Sometimes that is important that I do listen to my body and I do take a little nap. But oftentimes it's just get off my rear end, get up and start moving around. And then I'm back to being productive and active. And a lot of times I go outside, make sure I'm getting sunshine in the morning, getting the fresh air. And if I do those things, if I'm eating healthfully and I'm moving and I'm getting outside and seeing the sun, because it's glorious when it's out like today, that is a world of difference. If I'm sedentary, if I'm eating crummy food, if I'm not moving around, life is a big struggle, a really big struggle. And I could feel it if I go and have a Big Mac right now, I'm done for the rest of the day. I mean, it's that big of an impact. So,
yeah,
I feel really, really strongly.
5 minutes of temporary joy for like 5 hours of crashing or, something, it sounds like.
Sometimes it's worth it.
Sometimes worth it. That's right.
Sometimes I'll go, yep, we're having that Big Mac.
I think the McDonald's in Potomac just reopened. Apparently they were under construction.
I didn't know they were, because I used to stop way too often, just because after the barn, my daughter and I would stop and we'd be hungry and go through the drive-through. But then the evening I wouldn't be doing much the rest of the day, so it wouldn't be a big deal. But I'm like, I gotta stop that. That is not good. So,
but just to reinforce what you just said, Stephanie, about how these simple yet profound lifestyle changes, from getting enough sleep, in your case, treating narcolepsy, but getting enough sleep, being mindful, being kind of present to your body, even while you're interacting with these 1,000-pound animals, right, that are working with you energetically, having the activity, the movement, and then the real food as opposed to fake food. And then all the connections, the ties that you have, kind of what we call the smart lifestyle, and these connections that really bind us and really heal us too, right? Because we know connection is healing. Really, really powerful, because you've found that in your own life through dealing with health challenges and trying to optimize your wellness, both that really focusing on these lifestyle factors have this profound difference. It is, and
it's really important to keep positive people around, because there have been times when you can hit that negative downward spiral really easily. And if you're surrounded by other people who are negative and feeling bad, sometimes you can get this woe is me, oh, life is tough, this downward spiral, which does not help anything. Not to say that every once in a while it's okay to sit in the moment and say, it's tough and I'm having a tough day. And sometimes it's not fair and sometimes it sucks, and why me? And it's okay. It's okay to feel the feelings we're feeling, because they are real and legitimate. But it's not okay to get stuck in them. And that's where I've gotten pretty good at being able to pull myself out of it, going, okay, that's enough. Time to, start moving forward so I don't get stuck in this awful moment. Or I try to reach out to someone and say, hey, tell me a joke. I need to laugh. I need something to get me out of this. Or I get up and I go to the barn and I start moving and working and forcing myself to be in the moment, where I really can't think about all the other things that are weighing me down and bothering me. And it's just forcing myself into a healthier, more proactive situation. Because like everyone, I can sit and do nothing and be mad and irritated and like I said, it's okay to feel that way. It's just not okay to get stuck that way. And having positive people around. But when I say having positive people around, it's nice having cheerleaders, but it's also nice to have people who will also just sit with you when you're having a moment. That I don't need someone to say, it'll be fine. Have you tried this? And the superficial, or it's not that bad. You get a lot of that too. And sometimes it's okay for someone to say, oh, no, that's awful. That's really bad. And validate. I mean, validating feelings is really imperative. Really so.
100%. I feel like everyone needs that reflection of, my feelings are real. My body experience is real, and not to minimize it. But that's the way to kind of move forward and transform and move through that, is actually to validate it first.
Absolutely. And like with the narcolepsy, there's a lot more people that probably have narcolepsy than it's thought that one in 2,000, every 2,000 people has it. It's significantly underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed. But when people are interested in hearing about it and talking about it, that's one thing that I try to share is you don't have to understand. You just have to be compassionate. You just have to be willing to try to understand or try to listen to someone. I don't expect anybody, if someone says, oh God, I get really tired too. It's like, no, I get that tired. I get that tired too. But mine is beyond that. And I don't expect you to understand, but don't say, oh, I get tired too, like you're trying to connect with me. I don't need you to really connect with me. I just need you to say, oh, I'm sorry, it's so tough. Is there anything I can do to help? What can you tell me that will be helpful when you're feeling that way? What can I do? Is there anything? And just ask questions and just be a friend. And hopefully I do that for people. I don't always remember to do that, but I think that's also important, that people just want to understand and listen and really care. And if you really don't care, that's okay too. Then just change the subject and talk about something else, because I'm good. We don't have to talk about narcolepsy, and you don't have to teach you all about it. I'm happy to talk about something else too.
It's so healing to listen. I will say that there is some research, as you know, that shows that narcolepsy may be an attack on orexin, where it's an autoimmune condition. Or
that's what they say.
Thing, yeah?
The orexin hypocretin brain cells,
or what's under attack. So, So I think that your journey is really inspiring for a lot of people, being able to overcome and be very functional with narcolepsy, with other health conditions. I'm wondering if you would care to comment on your journey with kind of throughout your life, of this hormone journey that I think a lot of people are on.
That you have helped me with. Thank you very much. Finally.
You're very welcome.
Finally. Yes, I was, it's probably been 10 years or more now at the gynecologist, menopausal, early in my late 40s, asking about hormone replacement. And that's when I was told, oh, no, it's bad, causes cancer. And that just didn't make sense to me. But there's times when I question things, and there's other times when I've had so much on my plate that I'm fighting other battles. And that was one that just wasn't on the top of my list. But over the years, it's in the back of my head, thinking about it, wondering if there's something I should do about it. And not really understanding, because I'm thinking, well, if my hormones are at a certain level when I'm young and I'm feeling good and healthy, and then I ask about replacement therapy and someone says, no, it's bad for you. And I'm thinking, well, how can it be bad if we're replacing something that was there when I was healthy?
Correct.
And that's when you and I had the conversation, and you said, let's give it a try. And I said, really? Thank you. Let's. And it's been night and day. Absolutely night and day. I'm thrilled that it's been an opportunity. It's been an option for me, because for a while I actually had forgotten about it, and then just recently, right before I started seeing you, I was thinking, okay, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old, and I was struggling. I felt like I was struggling to get in and out of my chair. Walking up and down the stairs was difficult. My arthritis, everything. Excuse me, sorry. Everything was hurting. The bales of hay and grain bags and all the things that I'm used to, throwing around, and were just really becoming so difficult to lift and pick up. And when I'd be mucking stalls at the barn, and I'd come home and I'd sit down and I'd try to stand up, and I couldn't. I was just in pain. It was just hurting. And I'd think, okay, well, it's just like regular exercise. Maybe I haven't been working out enough, and in a couple of days I'll feel strong again. And that was not happening at all. And it was finally with the hormone replacement therapy that I'm back to feeling like I can do these things. I walk up and down the stairs. I don't have to hold the railing anymore. I don't have to support myself. I can Now I was walking down one step at a time. Now I'm just walking up and down the stairs. I knew I was way too young to be struggling up and down the stairs and having to hold the railing like an old person. And actually, I mean, I know people who are, my mom is in her mid 80s and she's walking up and down the stairs. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be about age. But I was feeling really, really bad. But the hormone replacement therapy has been a real game changer for me. So again, thank you for that.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. As you know, it is in a way simple because we're replacing something that, when you're younger, when your body is, quote unquote, more resilient, what is the difference? The difference is your hormones are at a higher level, at a more optimal level. So that's kind of what we're doing there. I just want to mention for the listeners that there is a study called the Women's Health Initiative that was published in 2002 that said that hormones cause cancer. And this was basically retracted and revised back in 2019, where now it's, they're saying it's
likely. Took them a long time.
Took them a long time. Yeah, took them a long time. So
it's better late than never, right?
Better late than never. Absolutely. So we're glad that you're feeling better on that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention from a perspective of your journey personally, Stephanie, as well as seeing how that could be helping out our community here, mm-hmm. is really things that we all struggle with, myself included, which is our metabolic health. How do we improve our metabolic health? We all know as we all get older, and I'm including myself in this too, but that just
I still think I'm older, so we'll go with that.
Well, yeah, well, we can kind of split the difference there. With looking at what's called healthy weight, but we know that weight isn't really the issue; it's really metabolic health. That's
correct,
really the
absolutely.
issue.
And that is also part of the narcolepsy portion, because that's sleep, and if you don't get enough sleep, it's interesting. Like I've shared with people to help them understand how important sleep is, because people think you go to sleep and if you're unconscious, you slept well. And that's not the case at all. You have no idea how you're sleeping until you take a sleep study. And I think everybody should have a sleep study done. I think it should be a baseline. And if you're fine, great. And if anything happens later on in life, you've got something to compare it to. But you don't know unless you know. And the only way to do it is through a sleep study. But anyway, I always tell people it's like during the day, my body's up, walking around, I'm eating food. It's like an office building. During the day, you've got your regular workers who are making their phone calls, doing all the things that happen in an office building on a daily basis. Then at night, the building doesn't necessarily completely shut down, but it changes because the regular workers go out. And then the people who clean the toilets, who vacuum the floors, who do all the organization or organizing for the next day, to prepare for the next day, so that you can come in and start the day clean, fresh, organized, and ready to go. Those people are so important. And that sleep is so important that if those people, I always say, if those people didn't come in at night to clean the bathrooms, to clean up, to organize, to take the garbage out and all that stuff, now I'm walking back into my office and it's a mess and I got to organize and I got to clean up, and there's so many things I can do or not do because I have to clean or organize or shuffle and every night that you miss that sleep, those workers don't come in to help organize for the next day. The garbage just stacks up. The more things get in the way, the more dirty and messy and grimy and unorganized things get. And then you get bogged down and it's really difficult to do anything. And that to me is the lack of sleep and what happens when you don't give your body the time to do all the things it's supposed to do at night to prepare for the next day and clean out the brain and all those things and your metabolic rate, and which all takes place so much excuse me. Also, short-term memory becomes long-term memory during certain stages of sleep, and you have to be in that stage of sleep, and you have to be in that stage of sleep long enough for it to actually go from short-term to long-term memory. So often when I don't remember things the next day, I know I did not sleep well because I didn't have the opportunity for it to transform itself from short-term to long-term memory. So
you have great analogy. Are you sure you didn't get a medical degree, Stephanie?
With as much studying and thinking about all this, yeah, I have pretty much.
And it's about education, empowerment. You've taught yourself all these things, and I'm going to use that analogy with the buildings, if you don't mind. It's a really good one.
I have to say, I came up with it myself. It was one of those things I was mid-conversation, and that's always seems to be when the best stuff happens.
Absolutely.
It's not like I ever thought, oh, how can I explain it? It was talking to someone, and it just came to my mind, and I thought, whoa, you know what? That really works. Because it's something that we can all relate to, is going to work, or whether it's your house, and if you don't straighten up, and if you don't do the things you were prepared for the next day, even if you don't work, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you don't organize things and kind of clean up from the day's work to prepare for the next day, you just got this more mess the next day, and it's just makes it tougher. So keeping up is really important.
Keeping up, yeah.
Easier said than done. Often way easier said than done.
Well, we're really grateful for our cleaning crew that comes in to our office, and I think, like you said, we should be grateful for the cleaning crew that's in our own bodies when we sleep. Right? That's basically what is happening, like you said.
Oh, yeah. Without my cleaning crew at night, well, and with the narcolepsy, I've got a limited cleaning crew because I don't get the deep. I get shorter sleep. And like for people who don't know narcolepsy, I'm not going to fall asleep, at the moment. It's nothing like the movies or you see on TV or jokes. It's very different. It's actually really fascinating. And I don't necessarily sleep more or less than anyone. Mine is just fractured sleep. And my brain will want to say, I want to sleep now, or be tired during the day, or I'll be awake in the middle of the night. So, there's a regular sleep cycle. And my brain doesn't necessarily go into that cycle in order or for the generally prescribed periods of sleep that it's supposed to be, the stage 1, 2, 3, REM sleep. It can kind of jump all over the places and sometimes skip a cycle and skip a level. And that's where my cleaning crew, we need to work on them a little bit. But that's what we're trying to figure out.
Totally. Cleaning crew is there. They're ready to work. It's just ready to...
Well, and especially like if you don't have a neurological disorder like I do, and you've got all the brain cells that are working, then they're absolutely there. And it's just treating them right, going to sleep, getting exercise, and eating right, and that you can do it.
So I'm curious your thoughts as well, because I know a lot of listeners are interested in this too, about your experience with either the GLP-1s or the combo GLP-1 GIP, medication, to see, have you been tolerating that? Is that something that you would recommend from your perspective?
I would. I have been using it. I want to say sporadically. It's in a lower dose, because I always try to keep things in a low dose. And I take a week off so that I'm like 3 weeks on, a week off, and trying to think. It's definitely helpful because I have been able to drop a little weight, but I'm not dropping a ton of weight. There's more weight that I'd like to lose, but that's not my sole purpose to it. Do I want to be thin? And yeah, for sure, but it's really for me about being healthy and doing it in a healthful way. And I'm really big on keeping my muscle tone, building my muscle tone. And thankfully with the hormone replacement, I feel that that's easier for me to do. I mean, fortunately, I'm rather muscular and have always been, and been able to keep my muscle. But for a while, I was worried about it because I was feeling so weak. So I think that there is I think it's a good balance. And I don't want to lose a lot of weight really fast, because I don't think that's healthy either. So I think the way I'm doing it, the way we've talked about me doing it, I think is smart. And I absolutely do. I think it's helpful. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think peptides, well, I'm a big proponent of peptides. And I think there's a lot of peptides out there that can be helpful and very useful and helpful. It's just they're not FDA approved, and there's a lot of other things. But this is, and it's interesting because a lot of people, peptides and the GLP ones, they've been around for a long time. I mean, a really long time. If you look at the weightlifters and wrestlers and bodybuilders, I mean, they've used the short chain amino acids. I mean, it's decades and decades. So when people are saying that they're new and they're not really well understood, and there's not a lot of research, well, there might not be a lot of research, but there's real life, long-term experience on a lot of the peptides and a lot of the things that are used. And that's where I think it's helpful to step away from the known medical community, who it seems to be cookie cutter. These are the approved of methods of helping, and this is all that's provided. Whereas with you, we have these conversations. You're open-minded. You suggest things, I suggest things, and we're working as a team to look at what can be helpful for me as an individual.
Absolutely. There's biochemical individuality. There's personalization. There's also, I would say, an evidence-informed approach where we do take the research into consideration that's there. But a lot of the research, a lot of the clinical treatments, then there's studies that show that lags behind the clinical treatment by about 17 years. In other words, it takes about 17 years for research to get to the quote-unquote bedside.
Absolutely. Right. And yeah, no, I'm all for research. Well, I mean, research all the time. It's just like you're saying, the lag. And also, medical school, I mean, clearly I've never been in medical school, but I have enough friends that have, and have talked to enough medical professionals also that there seem to be a lot more people that are more interested in the functional and integrative pathway in medicine now, that they're realizing that they went to medical school and now they're having to really redo medical school, not in reality, but in the way they're practicing medicine and studying medicine, and really kind of unlearning all the things that they learned. Not everything, clearly, but the whole more holistic, really how the body works, treating one thing in the body, but you have to treat the whole body. It's all connected. That also never made sense to me, how one thing can be wrong. It's like, well, we're going to treat this one thing when this one thing is part of my entire body. That if we put something in, different medications that I've taken over the years that would help with narcolepsy or certain things, would make me tired. And it was supposed to help with one area, but it would impact another area. And then you throw another medication to balance that medication, and then you something else, and then you don't even know what's working, what's not working, and it's when you can pare it all away and get back to what the body needs and helping the body work with itself. That's where I think the strength and the empowerment comes from. Because I can control that much more. I don't have to worry about, again, medications are great. I take medications. But I know there's things that I can do to empower my health, to make today be a better day, just by getting out in the sunshine, making sure I'm not eating the crummy food that I love so much. But know that I have to make the choice of, do I want to be productive today, or do I want that piece of cake?
It's true. So a lot of it is what we put in our bodies, how we interact with our environment, being outside, getting that circadian rhythm, that sunlight, so to speak, and reset. And it kind of goes back to what you just said about how we're always trying to heal from the inside out, using physiology, really. That's the thing that I think can connect anyone that's listening out there wondering, what is this all about? I think, really physiology, reducing inflammation, helping circulation, helping oxygenation, working with nutrition and hormones, and basically regenerating the system through kind of a stem cell release or, stem cell regeneration, which we call ICONS, ICONS. But that's basically this idea that your body has all the tools it needs. And if it needs a little bit of a push or a bump, we can do that. But your body
that's where my stem regen
everything.
is coming in.
There you go.
Which I've got with me right now. So
you're on some herbals to help with stem cell release, and I think the other products too. But you're really an inspiration to hopefully like a lot of people listening out here, because I'm sure a lot of people, when they listen to you, Stephanie, they can see themselves in you, and they've seen some of these kind of health journey, a very similar health journey in a way. I do want to ask you one thing is that of all the things you've dealt with in your life, and this could be physical, this could be, depending on how deep you want to get, mental, emotional, spiritual. Sure. What are the biggest obstacles you faced in becoming healthier and, up-leveling your health and wellness, and how did you overcome them?
Do we have time for that?
We can talk more.
That's a lot. But basically,
a lot.
What I was going to say a minute ago, and this kind of ties into it, is what we say to ourselves is so important. I truly believe that every cell in our body listens to what we say and what we think. And so that probably, we've all gone through stuff. Everybody has their thing or their things or their struggles. That's where I think we're all very much alike. And often we forget how much somebody may look great and look happy and have a nice job and have all the things, but we really don't know what's going on internally behind closed doors or behind, in our brains and there's no way to know. So you have to treat everyone. You have to assume everyone is you, and that I want to be treated with kindness. And I wanted to be someone to give me a break. And if I do something stupid or say something dumb or whatever, that somebody cuts me some slack, because I'm going to, right? For sure. I'm sure I probably have today at some point. Someone's going, she really said that. But I think there's a lot of grace, and that we need to show people grace, and we really need to show ourselves grace. And that's okay. And my marriage was tough. My divorce. My ex tried to take my kids away. He tried to take my parental rights away. Not that there was any reason. Just he just thought that. No, I don't know what he thought. We'll go with that. There's no way I have. To some people are not nice. And during that time, it was tough, because I was being involved with the courts and attorneys, and know that everybody's watching every move, everything you say, everything you do. And especially when they're looking to try to take your kids away or try to prove that you're unfit. And then you have health issues, trying to prove that I'm crazy, that the medications that I was taking for my narcolepsy, some of them are stimulants that you get for ADD, ADHD, and trying to prove that they're because, I'm nuts. And it's like, well, I know I'm a psychiatrist, but not to say that I couldn't use one, and not to say that I haven't been crazy. And I tell you, when you're around crazy people, you do get crazy. So I was crazy for a while. But that's also part of the journey, is realizing how important it is to step back, really understand where you're putting yourself, the people you're putting yourself with, the environment you're in, because it is so impactful. And once you get dug in, it's hard to dig out, and it's hard to see really what the reality is. And I remember one time I was driving, and I still see it perfectly in my mind. And I realized, I looked over and I thought, I was thinking, now if I was looking kind of, it's an out-of-body experience. If I was looking at myself as I was like a different person, like if I saw this woman who was going through all the things that I was going through, what would I say or what would I think? And I thought, I think she's nuts. I think she's crazy. Why is she not doing something differently, acting differently, saying something differently? And it was taking myself out of me for a moment and looking from the outside in that said, okay, I got to do this differently because this is not working. And I am looking crazy. I am sounding crazy. I'm actually helping my ex because I am sounding crazy, trying to defend myself. And that's also a problem is when you're emotional and things are important, oftentimes you do come off as the crazy person, where the person who's not very emotional comes off rational and reasonable. And actually, that's where a good therapist came in handy, where she just validated. She's like, well, of course, someone's trying to take your kids. Why wouldn't you be emotional and upset about it? I'm like, yeah, exactly. So that was helpful, having somebody who validated my feelings and not all the courts and the attorneys and my ex who were saying, why are you so crazy? Why are you so upset? Well, because there was good reason. So that was, the big journey has been really saying it's okay to be me. It's okay to have the challenges I have. It's okay to have the feelings that I have. It's okay to question the things that I question. It's okay. It's really, it's all okay. And if I get it wrong, you know what? I'll do better next time. I'll try again. I'll look at it differently. I am going to get it wrong. How can I not get it as wrong the next time? Is there some different venue or doctor, or it's just being open-minded and accepting, showing myself grace, showing other people grace, and really knowing that it's all going to be okay. I don't know how it's going to be okay. And usually the way I plan it is never the way it works out. So, but, above ground and breathing is an opportunity to make anything possible. And that's kind of how I look at it.
Stephanie, you just outlined, I'm just kind of blown away here. You just outlined the whole universal healing plan. You got compassion in there, self-compassion, balancing out and actually, like you said, getting rid of toxic relationships if they're not, helpful for you, and also toxic self-thoughts, things that would
They're
be
the worst. They're the
right,
hardest.
because that's bathing in that cortisol, that high cortisol.
Well, one thing I the way I looked at it was, it was funny because I've gone through therapy. Therapy is great. I also think being in therapy and talking about things can also just be overwhelming and keep you in the same cycle. So I think there's a balance to it. But I remember, when people were trying to convince me of this self-hate. I'm like, I don't hate myself. I really don't. But because I think psychiatry, a lot like the medical field, there's certain things that are believed, and this is the way it is. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. For me, it was, I didn't hate myself. I felt almost like I didn't exist because I was existing to the rest of the people and everything else in my world. And I let myself go. Probably, as a kid, I realized that the safe way for me to protect myself was to be what everybody else needed or wanted me to be. So I didn't really know who I was. And I'm still not sure I know who I am. I'm working on that all the time. But I remember thinking that I at least had, throughout all the stuff that I've been through, I was able to protect that little kid inside of me. And I realized that she'd gotten kicked around a bunch and people had said nasty things, and how important it was that I wasn't also one of those person who was kicking that little kid who felt, bad. It's like, no, it was my job to protect that little kid and to protect me, and not to be part of the outside world and all the other people who were kicking me or saying nasty things or making me feel bad or stupid or questioning the things that I questioned. And that's where it was like, I have to protect myself. I have to make sure that little kid inside me, that person inside of me, I can't be part of the kicking crew.
You can be part of the home crew, the home cleaning crew, the home cheer crew that's cheering you on.
Yeah. I mean, be honest about when I mess up and say, I've made these mistakes. It's not, to be delusional, but, I don't need to be kicking myself either. I just need to acknowledge, okay, I've made a mistake. I've done something wrong. Now what do I do about it? So it is imperative how you treat yourself and how you allow other people to treat you, and just being aware. And it's tough. It's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to break old habits. A lot of times under stress or difficult times, it's easy to fall back into those old habits. So, but that's when we have to remind ourselves, okay, breathe, be in the moment. What do I need to do next?
Yes, it is. And I think just taking that, what I sometimes call a sacred pause, this idea of like just letting everything be calm. In Spanish, it's tranquilo, this idea of just letting the water kind of get calm, and then you're kind of sitting on that lake watching everything. That allows your body to really reset, recalibrate, and recover from that otherwise chaotic moment.
Well, I don't think you can. I don't think you can do any. I don't think there's any correct decision out of chaos. You'll make lots of decisions. They're probably the wrong ones. Sometimes they're the only ones. But if you do have the ability to take a deep breath and breathe and sit and, realize where my shoulders, lower the shoulders, breathe, try to feel all the muscles, relax all the muscles. And then it helps relax the mind. And then that's when the real healthy thoughts and the healthy way of thinking and the more proactive, positive way of thinking can happen. So I absolutely agree with you. That's why oftentimes in an argument, they say, walk away, disengage, balance, settle yourself, then come back to it. And then you can be productive and proactive. Otherwise, I made that mistake a lot.
Yes.
I have to go, take it easy.
No, we've learned a lot today, Stephanie, and I want to say that, I'd love to have you back for another podcast if you'd like, because I know we have so much more to talk about. I learn a lot from you when we have our visits with your different wellness, biohacks, and like I'm telling you about everything we have.
Well, I wasn't mentioning any of those today because
right. This is for part 2. This is like you're like, I already have this. I'm already doing this. So it's amazing. I wanted to ask you though, if you could just summarize for the listener, what are the top 3, like your top 3 best habits or strategies? And it could be something like sleeping better, eating better, like you said. But what are your top 3 habits or strategies that, if done on a daily basis, would really, really move the needle for people on their health, or at least in your experience?
I'd say, first of all, forgive yourself. It's okay. It really, whatever is going on, whatever you're thinking, whatever you didn't do, whatever didn't get done, it's okay. I love
that. I love that.
Like I've told my kids, sometimes they complain about the kind of mom I was or am or whatever. It's like, look, the one thing I can say is I know I always tried my best, and sometimes my best was really awful, really bad. But in that moment, I was trying my best. And that's really sometimes all you can do, even if it's really awful. But that's okay. And beating ourselves up and not forgiving ourselves, and it gets that downward spiral thing going and makes everything so much more difficult. So, number one, wherever you are in the moment, in your life, in the day, it's okay. And start from there. And even if you don't go very far, then start at the next breath or the next moment. It's, as long as we're alive and breathing, there is the next moment to do better. And learn from the past. Don't relive it and don't beat yourself up over it, but do learn from it. So, I would think that, just showing myself grace and understanding, definitely getting up and moving. The more sedentary I am, everything starts getting heavier, darker. The food cravings kick in. Then if I do those food cravings and I eat, then, that's kind of the downward spiral. So it's get moving. Once I'm moving and doing something, I mean, I love being outside, so that's a big deal for me. But even if it's turn on some music, music is great. I can do a lot more house cleaning with some really good tunes playing than I can without it. So I would say, really, it's okay. Forgive yourself, move, and really, what I put in my body is really significant. I mean, really, really significant. And for me, it's the fats and the proteins that are, or the not eating that is most helpful for me. But that's me. I don't know what other people, somebody, and staying hydrated. Hydration is key. But those, I mean, those are the big things. And I think those are big things. I really, without those things, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything.
Those are big things. Those are meta treatments. Stephanie, do you do any electrolytes with the water, or are you doing like plain water with lemon or something?
No, electrolytes, or I do lemon and lime water, but I usually have the electrolytes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your journey with us, your life with us, for being so vulnerable, so open. You're so courageous. I'm inspired by you. I know
you're so kind.
A pioneer. No, you are a pioneer in this health and wellness space, because you're I would say, a tough mudder. You know, those tough mudder races. You've probably been in a lot of different mud in your life, and with the horses, of course, literally with the mud, but also you've picked yourself off that mud so many times, I'm sure, and you've lived to tell the tale, and you're still alive. So that's the biggest thing.
Well, the one thing I for sure do is all the people, the naysayers, and I still have people who say I'm crazy and have not nice things to say about me. And you know what? That's their right. They can say whatever nasty things about me that they want to, because it's really none of my business. But my goal is I'm going to win, because I'm not going to let them get to me, and I'm not going to do anything to harm myself or destroy myself, or all the things that I've actually had people wish for me. But that's that's how I'm winning. I'm going to win. And I'm kind of a competitive person to begin with, but is just knowing that I'm taking care of me, and I'm not letting all those naysayers and the people who don't think kindly of me or don't wish me well, they're not getting in my head. They're not getting in my body. They're not getting in my space. And, that's kind of what keeps me going too, is knowing that if I don't want them to win. I don't want them to say, oh, see, she was crazy. Oh, she did give up. It's, I don't want to let those people be right. I want to be right.
Well, good. I think whatever it takes, but, having that positive impact, which you are having, and you have this reason to want to be healthy, right? What is your reason? Because that's always another thing that, to kind of consider.
Definitely my kids. I mean, it's my kids, and I mean, and for me, I mean, I there's a certain life that I want to have, and that's one where I can walk up and down the stairs without being in pain. I want to be able to go see the horses and throw out bales of hay. I want to be able to. It's our health is so important. In fact, I heard, it was last night I was listening to, a healthy person can dream 1,000 things. An unhealthy person only has one dream.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I heard that last night, and I thought, isn't that the truth? And as I'm getting healthier, I'm realizing I'm able to have more dreams. And
that's awesome.
I think it's cool.
That is so cool. And dreaming is really the fountain of the hope of life, and continuing to get better and improving, and growth and transformation, in a positive way. So again, thank you so much, Stephanie. It's been such a joy to talk to you today. I feel like I know you even better. So we'll have to do this again soon.
Same here. And you, I'm so thankful for you. I mean, I know I tell you that every time I see you, because it's the truth.
I appreciate that. I do.
But it is really, I mean, thanks for asking me to do this. And it's always nice, because I think these things and I feel these things, and I think I'm pretty authentic, but it's always nice to hear them and reiterate and hear myself say them and think them and remind myself, because you get busy, but But thanks for partnering with me. That's a big deal, because I feel that I've got someone that I can trust, who's listening to me, who will be open-minded, who will say, and you, as you have, let me look into that. Let me see what I can find out. And which I love, because there's, I don't know. I'm clearly asking you, and it's a lot of some of the stuff's about sleep, and the fact that you're going, you know what, let me see what I can find out. And you have a lot of different venues that I don't have access to, which is really wonderful. And there's so many medical professionals who don't do that, don't have the time to do that, aren't willing to do that. So I can't thank you enough. I mean, I really, truly cannot thank you enough. And I'm excited about this, and I'd be happy to do this again if this has been helpful. And it's been fun. You're always so much fun to talk to.
It's so fun.
You're a good guy. Doctor or not, you're a good guy.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate you as well. And thank you so much for allowing me to partner with you. Thank you so much.
We're going to be doing this for a while.
Absolutely.
Even when I'm perfectly healthy, and we'll still be figuring out what else we can do.
Then it's about work of wellness at that point too.
Well, the thing is, it never ends.
Yep. That's all part of it. And I think that's the second episode coming up with you at some point. We'll talk about wellness more and how to optimize that. But in the meantime, enjoy the slightly warmer weather now that we have here in Potomac. Thank you everyone else for listening too, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, Stephanie.
Yep. Thanks.